good. Okay.
So the sheep brain is what we're looking at. And the brain is covered with connective tissues. So I'm sort of starting at the bottom here with the collective name of what membrane covers the brain and spinal cord. They're collectively called the meninges. And we will do this in class, so you'll have it before you write the test next week. The meninges have 3 layers to them. The outer layer is really, really, really tough, fibrous connective tissue, really tough. And it's called the dura mater, D-U-R-A mater. And in Latin, dura mater stands for tough mother. It's a tough mother, okay? Dura mater. And then the layer that sits right on top of the brain is very, very thin. I'm kind of picking it up a little bit there. You can see how thin it is. So name the first tissue the pin passes through right on the surface of the brain is the pia mater, P-I-A mater, and we'll do this in class. And it stands for gentle mother, whatever, okay, because it's really flimsy. But it's important because that's what secretes the cerebrospinal fluid into the space between the two of them, which is called the arachnoid. And we'll talk about that more in class. You'll see why it has kind of connective tissue fingers hanging down. What do you think of when you think of arachnoid? Spiders. It sort of looks like spider legs hanging down, or it did to somebody when they named it. Whatever. So the meninges cover the whole brain and spinal cord. Okay, all the way down. So I don't know if you've ever seen or been a part of a spinal tap or had one done on you, but because it covers the whole spinal cord, when you do a spinal tap, you bend over and it goes in between the vertebrae, and the needle has to pop through the meninges, through the dura mater. So that's how they know that they're in. It's really tough. So that's the covering. So the brain, when you take the meninges off, here's the nose out here, okay? So the front of the face is here, and here's the back of the animal going here, because there's your spinal cord, okay? There's 3 main parts to the brain. The most rostral and the biggest part in mammals, certainly, is called the cerebrum. And it's divided into a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. You talk about a right brain and a left brain, well, that's where it is. That's your cerebrum, and that's where you do your thinking. And the right and left cerebrum, so if I name this part of this structure, that will be the right cerebral hemisphere and the left cerebral hemisphere. So that I do expect right and left being named for those. And the 2 hemispheres are separated by a gap called the longitudinal fissure. So it's easy to remember because it runs long. Longitudinal fissure. In your notes it says longitudinal cerebral fissure, whatever. Longitudinal fissure works fine for me. Okay. Then the cerebellum is this single lumpy bit at the back here. And that's the cerebellum, sometimes called the hindbrain because it's at the back side. And then the medulla oblongata is the other part, but you really can't see it looking dorsally very well because there's the skull comes over like this. What hole is going to be right here? Foramen magnum, okay? Because this is your spinal cord. So to see the medulla oblongata really properly, we got to turn it over ventrally, and it runs. This part here is the pons of the medulla oblongata. So the medulla oblongata is this long bit here. Usually, if I want you to say medulla oblongata, I will pin it like right in the middle of it. Okay, name this part would be the pons of the medulla oblongata. And then beyond that, you can see how it kind of pinches in a little bit. This would be the spinal cord, way out here. So if the pin is well beyond the end of the cerebellum, it's spinal cord. Oh, and the other thing, on the surface of the brain, there are a number of folds, so sticky hills and valleys, if you want. The hills or the folds are called gyri, and the valleys or the grooves are the sulci. Sulci or sulci, whatever. They're the grooves in there. And the purpose of the hills and valleys, or the gyri and sulci, are to increase the surface area. Just like the villi in the intestine increase the surface area for absorption, the more gyri and sulci there are, the more surface area there is for thought processes. Okay? If you've ever seen a picture, or if you look at the models of the human brains up in the cabinet there, human brains have a lot more. Sheeps are not known for, this is a sheep brain, they're not known for their super intelligence. So there's not a lot of gyri and sulci on their brain surface. The nervous system is great for delivering ultimate insults. As a species, sheep don't have many, humans have lots. But if you want to deliver an ultimate insult to somebody, you think they're being really stupid or something like that. You're such a smooth brain. Oh, ultimate insult. And 90% of the people won't know what the heck you're talking about, which makes it even funnier because you've just insulted the heck out of them and they don't even know it. Is that funny? Maybe it's not funny. It's not funny. Okay, anyways. I just realized
I thought it was.
I'm on camera. Ultimate insults going out over the internet. Red River instructor gets fired for that. Okay. All right. I get myself in more trouble.
I'll try to cut it out.
Thanks. Okay, so the gyri and sulci, and that's what their function is, okay, is to increase the surface area for mental activity or something to that effect. Okay, so ventrally, the olfactory bulb. What sense is the olfactory sense? Smelling, the sense of smell. They are very fragile. They're the most rostral thing that you can see on the ventral brain. Can't see them dorsally. But they're quite... Humans have very small olfactory bulbs. Our sense of smell isn't fabulous. Sheep, okay, most animals tend to have larger olfactory bulbs. And so that's those guys, they're the most rostral thing there. The optic nerve, okay, so the eyes are over here. The optic nerve has come from the eye. And the optic nerves cross. Most nerves cross in the brain from right to left. Okay? The optic nerves cross, and the point at which they cross is called the optic chiasma. This, when this brain, oftentimes it's hard to remove the meninges and leave the nerve intact, so it gets tricky. The optic nerves would be coming out here, like that. So then there's the optic chiasma where they cross. And on the other side of the chiasma, once you're inside the brain, it's called the optic tract. So this is the optic tract from the one optic nerve and from the other optic nerve. And again, we'll talk more about this on Monday in class. So the optic tract, optic chiasma, and then optic nerve coming from the eye. We're not going to do the mammillary body, so that is right there on your sheet. We don't worry about that. The pons and the medulla oblongata I already did. And then the hypophysis, or the pituitary gland, is, when you're looking for it, it's right behind the optic chiasma. Okay? So the pituitary, this is more tissue than anything else. So usually what I'll do is ask